I think that this is an incredibly smart move for the incoming Trump team. They have no skin in the game right now. He's not the president. And what's going to happen next year, as we've been discussing with clients for months now, is that they're going to have to face perpetual risks of government shutdown. And then in July, a debt ceiling negotiation with Democrats. And let's just think about the numbers here. In 2023, 71 Republicans voted against increasing the debt ceiling. There's only 10 blue dogs of the Democratic Conference of Moderates who might cross the aisle and vote for a debt ceiling hike sometime this week. So basically, the math just does not add up for trying to get 60 votes in the Senate and 218 votes in the House to increase the debt ceiling in the next 48 hours. But it's incredibly intelligent of Trump to try to get it out of the way, because it is going to be a massive impediment to the Republican agenda in 2025 if it's not cleared early.
If there's a government shutdown, won't the blame be placed upon the Republican Party? And if so, how's that calculus work?
Right. It always is. The blame is always placed on the Republican conference. They are the ones who instigate government shutdowns, going as far back as Ted Cruz in, 2011, 2013. It's plain to the American voter that Republicans are to blame, but there's a disproportionate amount of Democrats who care about a government shutdown versus Republicans who don't see it as too much of a big deal. The optics are obviously atrocious. You're going to send federal employees home during the holidays over Christmas without a paycheck in the next 2 weeks. You're going to shut all the national parks where Americans are traveling at pretty high rates right now over the holidays. So it's definitely not good optics. It makes Congress look dysfunctional. But what it's really showing us, and the Christmas present for investors right now, is that this is a precursor of just how dysfunctional Republicans are going to be next year. They have not had the votes for government funding bills for a decade. And usually it's Democrats who bail them out. And right now, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are holding their party together to say, look, this is your mess. You bail yourself out of this.
Yeah, I feel like I use that with my daughter sometimes too. But the debt ceiling issue, right? Like moving forward, the debt ceiling issue, so Trump won't have to deal with it in the summer, but instead that will come under Biden's watch. He said to NBC that he'd like to get rid of the debt ceiling altogether. How do you think that particular part plays out?
Yeah, I mean, that's very, expected from Trump. He, has famously said, let's just see what happens if you default. So I think his position on this is very clear. It's a nightmare for any president to have to increase the debt ceiling because you need to negotiate with the other party. The difference here is that you can, in fact, increase the debt ceiling via reconciliation. So if Republicans do not want to negotiate with Democrats, all they have to do is include a debt ceiling hike in the next reconciliation bill, which the Senate Budget Committee is hoping to mark up as early as the first week of January. So there is an alternative here, and Democrats know that. So if Republicans really do want it off the table, they have a path forward that they just need to carry the votes. They just need to find 217. And there have never been 217 Republican votes for the debt ceiling.
Henrietta, are you surprised that we have heard relatively little, if anything, from the Biden administration? It's President-elect Trump and his representatives taking all the oxygen out of the room about this topic.
Absolutely. I think that's a really important dynamic to all this. We know that Joe Biden, as president and even as senator, has always preferred sort of the diplomatic negotiated solution. Democrats generally believe the government functions for a purpose. And I think if Biden wanted to insert himself into this process, he could. But you're absolutely correct. He's been completely off the radar in this entire conversation, which admittedly only popped up in the last 24 hours.
So what do we think happens? Like, are we extending programming on television and radio on Friday to cover the weekend? Like, what are we thinking here?
Yeah, my odds of a shutdown are about 20% right now, which is admittedly very high for me. I'm usually in the 0 to 5% range of a shutdown, so I'm much higher than I usually am. But I don't think a shutdown is guaranteed. I think that Speaker Johnson and indeed President-elect Trump should want the government to stay open so that on January 3rd, they can get the ball rolling. They can elect their speaker. They can start passing a fiscal year 2025 budget, paving the way for a reconciliation bill on border, and then a future package on the tax package next year. That is, investors should take away one thing today. It's that the tax bill is going to take all year. It's going to be very hard to write, and there's a very strong chance that Republicans have to negotiate with Democrats on it. And that odds are growing as this debt ceiling and CR fight is exhibiting in real time. But I don't think we'll shut down. I think a very short term, maybe 2 week stopgap bill is what we're going to see probably tomorrow morning.